My wife's sister laughed in my face when she heard I worked out of a garage. She joked that my entire life smelled like motor oil and cheap tools. But she went dead silent the day she learned I wasn't a mechanic. I was her new Sue. Welcome to Amelia's Stories. Keep listening. These real stories about love, trust, and betrayal will give you true life experiences. If you're new, drop your location in the comments and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Evan Walker, 34, wasn't the kind of man who bragged about anything. He preferred silence, steady work, and the privacy of the home garage where he ran his still confidential startup. To the outside world, it looked like he spent his days tinkering with parts and tools. His wife, Marissa, understood more than most, but even she was often swayed by the louder voices in her family, especially her sister. Sierra Dalton, 29, had a sharp tongue and a sharper ego. Obsessed with image, status, and the illusion of success, she treated Evan like he was a walking embarrassment. Every visit came with snide remarks, calling him the grease monkey brother-in-law, asking Marissa if she felt stuck, and joking that Evan's future smelled like burnt oil. But Sierra didn't know that behind the scattered wires, prototypes, and late nights, Evan was building something real. His garage wasn't a hobby. It was the headquarters of a rapidly growing tech manufacturing company on the verge of a major corporate merger. A merger that would soon place him in a position Sierra could never have imagined. This is where the betrayal begins, and where the revenge quietly starts to form. At Sierra's insistence, the family dinner was supposed to be casual, but Evan felt the tension the moment he walked through the door. Marissa had pleaded with him to come, promising it would be good for everyone. But Sierra's smirk as she opened the door told him exactly how the night would go. She wasted no time. Before appetizers even landed on the table, Sierra launched into a dramatic retelling of her first week at Dalton Aero Works, emphasizing every technical term she barely understood. Then with a sugary grin she turned to Evan. "Must be nice," she said loudly, "not having to worry about real work. I could never marry a man who tinkers with lawnmowers in a garage. But hey, someone has to fix them, right?" The table chuckled. Marissa forced a smile, staring at her plate. Evan felt the sting more from her silence than Sierra's jab. He stayed calm, choosing not to react. But the blow that truly cut him came when he stepped away to take a call and accidentally overheard Sierra whispering to Marissa in the hallway. "You really married down, you know. You could have done so much better." Marissa didn't argue. She didn't defend him. She just sighed. That tiny sound, defeated, embarrassed, lodged itself in Evan's chest. When he returned to the table, the room felt colder, heavier. Dinner continued, but the damage was done. A quiet distance settled between him and Marissa, a distance born from a truth he could no longer ignore. She cared more about her family's approval than his dignity. The drive home was painfully quiet. Marissa stared out the window, pretending the evening hadn't just reopened every insecurity Evan had worked years to bury. The moment they stepped inside, he finally said what he'd been holding back. "Why didn't you say anything, Marissa?" "Not once." She froze. Her shoulders sank, and for the first time that night, her eyes filled. "Evan, I'm tired," she whispered. "I'm tired of Sierra calling you a failure. Every time she visits, every family event, it's constant." "Then why do you let her?" he asked, the hurt thick in his voice. "Why is her opinion more important than defending your husband?" Marissa shook her head, wiping her cheeks. "Because I don't want them thinking we're struggling. I don't want them judging us. Sierra already thinks I settled. If she knew how tight things were in the beginning." "So that's it," Evan cut in. "You're embarrassed." She didn't deny it. Her silence said everything. In that moment, something inside Evan shifted. It wasn't loud or dramatic. Just a quiet collapse of trust. He realized she wasn't just letting Sierra disrespect him. She was agreeing with her, even if she didn't say it out loud. He didn't yell. He didn't argue further. He simply stepped back, feeling a distance settle between them like a wall neither knew how to break through. That night, while Marissa cried herself to sleep, Evan sat alone in the garage, his so-called lawnmower workshop, and poured every ounce of pain into expanding his company, determined to succeed with or without her support. Sierra showed up early on a Saturday morning, the kind of timing that made it clear she wasn't visiting out of concern. She was looking for trouble. Marissa was in the shower, so Sierra let herself in, calling out a fake cheerful, "Just checking on my sister," as she wandered straight toward the garage. Evan heard the door swing open before he even turned around. Sierra's nose wrinkled instantly. "Wow," she said, stepping inside like she was entering a crime scene. "So this is the famous workshop? I thought it would at least look functional." She walked along the workbench, dragging a finger across a rail of neatly labeled prototypes and wiping it on her leggings with exaggerated disgust. "This is sad, Evan. Really sad. A dusty little man cave with wires and scraps. No wonder Marissa's stressed." Evan kept his jaw tight, refusing to give her the reaction she wanted. But Sierra wasn't done. She folded her arms, leaned against his toolbox and smirked. "Look, if Marissa ever decides to leave you, I'll help her find a real man. Someone with a real career. Someone who doesn't play pretend engineer in a garage." For a moment the room felt utterly still. Evan didn't raise his voice. He didn't defend himself. He simply looked at her and realized he was finished allowing this woman, or anyone, to disrespect what he'd built. Without a word, he pulled out his phone, opened his messages and typed to his assistant. "Move the merger meeting up. I want it done." Sierra had no idea her insults had just accelerated her own reckoning. The day of the corporate meeting, Evan felt an odd mix of nerves and quiet satisfaction. Dalton Aeroworks headquarters were sleek and intimidating, glass walls, polished floors, and employees moving with the confidence of people who believed they were indispensable. Among them he spotted a few familiar faces from the merger discussions, all of whom knew the magnitude of what was about to happen. Evan kept his expression neutral as he entered the boardroom. The executives greeted him with professional nods, discussing minor details while the room buzzed with anticipation. Today wasn't about ego, it was about business. And yet he couldn't help thinking about Sierra, the same woman who had mocked his garage, belittled his work and undermined his marriage. No one outside the inner circle knew the truth. Evan's garage operation was no hobby. It was a thriving tech manufacturing company poised to revolutionize production lines, and after the merger he would become CEO. In just weeks, many employees would unknowingly report, directly or indirectly, to the man they once assumed was a simple tinkerer. Evan listened as the executives finalized plans for the public announcement, deliberately keeping the timing confidential. He noted how Sierra's department would eventually integrate into his new structure, a fact she couldn't yet imagine. He didn't feel vindictive. This wasn't revenge. Yet a subtle, satisfying thought lingered. Those who had doubted him, who had mocked him, would have to confront reality on his terms. He had earned his position honestly, and he wouldn't bend to shield anyone from the consequences of their own arrogance. Evan left the meeting quietly, already envisioning the days ahead, poised and unshakable. Late one evening, Evan was working late in the garage when he heard the faint murmur of Marissa's voice from the living room. At first he thought she was on the phone with a friend about mundane things, but the tone soon caught his attention. Curiosity turned to disbelief as he realized who she was speaking to, Sierra. Marissa confessed her frustrations, her voice trembling. "I just feel stuck, Sierra, like Evan doesn't understand me anymore. I'm scared we're drifting apart." Sierra's response was calm, almost venomously reassuring. "Marissa, you know I love you, but you married dead weight. He's holding you back. You deserve more than a man who hides in a garage all day, tinkering with wires and prototypes while you shoulder everything else." Marissa hesitated, uncertainty creeping into her words. I don't know. Maybe you're right. I just think about life without him," Sierra pressed, her voice low and persuasive. "You'd be free to do anything. Someone like me could help guide you if you choose to step up." Evan froze, the finality of her manipulation hitting him like a physical blow. All the humiliation, the subtle digs, the silent undermining, it had been happening behind his back, orchestrated by the person who was supposed to be closest to him. The garage felt smaller, colder as he absorbed the betrayal. His own wife was being swayed by her sister, and Sierra had actively pushed the idea of separation. It wasn't just mocking anymore. It was an emotional assault, and Evan realized that protecting Marissa from the consequences of her choices might no longer be his responsibility. The next morning, Evan calmly told Marissa he needed space. Her eyes widened in shock, panic creeping into her voice. "Evan, please, don't do this. We can work through it. We can fix this." He shook his head slowly. "I can't keep ignoring what's been happening. I need time, Time to think, time to breathe. I love you, but I can't protect us both from the consequences of this betrayal anymore. Marissa's protests faltered, replaced by tears. She clutched his hands, pleading. I didn't realize. I didn't mean to. Evan stepped back, his expression resolute. I know you didn't fully see it. That's why I'm leaving for now. I need to regain clarity before I can decide anything else. Across town, Sierra was quick to seize the opportunity. She cornered Marissa, her words sharp and calculated. Let him go, she said, her smirk barely hidden. You deserve better than this. He'll come around if it's meant to be, but don't fight for someone who isn't fighting for himself. Evan packed essentials into a duffel, moving into a short-term rental nearer his soon-to-be office. The change of scenery felt like a weight lifted. He wasn't running from his marriage. He was stepping away to protect his peace and prepare for what was coming. In the quiet of his new space, Evan made a silent vow. He would focus on the company, the upcoming merger, and his own path forward. Marissa and Sierra could no longer rely on his discretion. The truth would reveal itself in due time, and for the first time in months, Evan felt a sense of control returning. The auditorium buzzed with anticipation, employees chatting and shuffling into seats, unaware of the full magnitude of the announcement. Sierra sat near the front, her heels clicking against the floor as she whispered to a coworker about the mysterious new CEO she expected to meet. Her excitement was palpable, tinged with curiosity and self-importance. Evan stepped onto the stage, every movement controlled and deliberate. The moment he appeared, a ripple of stunned silence swept through the room. His presence was commanding, professional, and unmistakably authoritative, the exact image of the leader this merged company needed. Sierra's eyes widened. Her face drained of color as recognition dawned. This was the same man she had belittled countless times, mocked for his garage tinkering, and undermined in private conversations with her sister. The realization hit her like a physical blow. The man she thought small, inconsequential, and powerless was now the person who would oversee her career and evaluate her performance. Evan didn't glance her way. He didn't smirk or gloat. Instead, he projected calm confidence, opening with a speech that resonated across the room. He spoke of integrity, dedication, and loyalty, qualities he had embodied quietly without fanfare, even under ridicule. Every word underscored his rise from underestimated garage entrepreneur to CEO of a major corporation. Sierra shrank in her seat, every insult she had thrown now reflected back on her own arrogance. Meanwhile, Evan commanded the room, respected and unshakable, proving that achievement and character speak louder than mockery ever could. After the company-wide announcement, Sierra tried to salvage her standing. She approached Evan privately, offering an overly sweet smile. Evan, she began, I've always believed in you. I just, maybe didn't show it in the best way. Her words were coated in false sincerity, the kind that made his skin crawl. Evan listened silently, then shook his head. Sierra, your history speaks for itself, he said firmly. I'm not here to judge or punish, but I will not allow past behavior to slide simply because it's convenient now. He made a mental note to document the encounter, adding it to the growing record of her hostility, manipulations, and attempts to undermine him and others. Over the next week, Aita received multiple reports from co-workers about Sierra's toxic behavior. Complaints ranged from belittling remarks to sabotage attempts, all corroborating patterns Evan had quietly observed. The investigation was thorough and impartial, leaving no room for misinterpretation. When the findings were finalized, HR made the decision to terminate Sierra's employment. There was no public spectacle, no gloating, just a clear consequence for repeated misconduct. Later, Marissa confronted her sister. The confrontation was tense, a mix of frustration and painful clarity. Do you see now what your influence has done? Marissa demanded, her voice sharp. Sierra had no answer, caught between shame and disbelief. Evan watched from a distance, calm and composed. The fallout was not his revenge but the natural consequence of actions and choices. Finally, the people who had underestimated him saw the truth. Integrity and competence prevail, while manipulation and cruelty only lead to downfall. Marissa found Evan in his new office one evening, her face pale and tense. She clutched his hands, eyes glistening with regret. Evan, I'm so sorry, she began, her voice trembling. I should have defended you. I should have never let my family's opinions overshadow what we had. I let them dictate how I treated you and it wasn't fair. Please, can we try again? Evan studied her quietly, the weight of months of betrayal and disappointment pressing on him. He had listened to her apologies, heard the remorse in her voice, but the truth lingered. The damage wasn't solely Sierra's doing, it was compounded by the silence of the woman he loved most. I appreciate your words, Marissa, Evan said calmly, but trust isn't rebuilt overnight. The hurt wasn't just from what Sierra said, it was from the times you let it happen without standing by me. That's what broke the foundation between us. Marissa's lips quivered, tears falling freely, but Evan stepped back. I need time, he continued. Time to decide what's best for me and for us. I won't rush into fixing something that's been compromised. He turned to look out the window, the city lights reflecting off the glass. In that moment, Evan felt a quiet strength, no longer defined by anyone's judgment, mockery, or expectations. Sierra's downfall was complete, and Marissa had confronted the reality of her choices. Evan remained standing, poised, self-respecting, and in control. A man who had endured betrayal, faced it with integrity, and emerged stronger than ever before.